Danger number 5. We are on danger 5, where everything we have covered so far has felt, to some degree, like it is happening to other people. A teenager in Florida, a finance employee in a boardroom, scientists in laboratories. This next danger is different, because there is a reasonable chance it is already happening to you. Work is not just how most people earn money. It is how they build identity, community, purpose, routine. It is where most adults spend the majority of their waking hours. And it is changing faster than at any point in modern history. In 2025, Microsoft researchers published a study identifying the jobs most exposed to AI replacement. The list was not what most people expected. It was not factory workers, not manual laborers. It was knowledge workers, translators, writers, journalists, programmers, sales representatives, customer service agents, political analysts, mathematicians. In other words, the jobs that required education, training, years of skill development. The jobs that were supposed to be safe, translators, writers, journalists, programmers, customer service representatives, sales representative, mathematical analysts. And the speed of this shift is what separates it from every previous technological disruption in history. When the printing press arrived, the change unfolded over generations. When factories replaced craftsmen, it took decades. When computers entered the workplace, workers had years to adapt. This time, the window is measured in months. Earlier this year, a software developer named Adam Schumer posted something online that resonated with millions of people. He wrote, "These new AI models are not incremental improvements. This is a different thing entirely." He was not speaking as a critic of AI. He was speaking as someone who had spent his career building with technology and who was genuinely shocked by what he was now seeing. These new AI models aren't incremental improvements. This is a different thing entirely. Adam Schumer, software developer, 2025. The 2025 McKinsey State of AI report confirmed what many were feeling, but few were saying openly. 88% of organizations are now using AI in at least one core business function, up from 78% just 12 months earlier. The adoption is not slowing down. It is accelerating. And here is what most coverage of this issue gets wrong. The conversation tends to focus on unemployment, on the number of jobs lost. That is a real concern, but it is not the deepest one. The deeper concern is what happens to a society when millions of people lose not just their income, but their sense of purpose, all at the same time. We have never engineered this kind of disruption at this speed before. Previous technological shifts displaced workers gradually enough that communities could absorb the change. New industries emerged. New skills were developed. New identities were built. The question this time is whether the pace of displacement will outrun the pace of adaptation. And the burden of this shift, as with so many economic disruptions, will not fall equally. Workers in wealthy cities with access to retraining programs and financial safety nets will have options. Workers in smaller towns, in developing economies, in industries that AI replaces wholesale rather than partially, will have far fewer. The same technology that makes life more efficient for some could make it significantly harder for others. And right now, most people navigating this are doing so without a roadmap. There is also something else happening, something subtler, that researchers are only beginning to document. Even workers who have not lost their jobs are changing how they work. Software developers who once wrote code from scratch now use AI to generate most of it, and focus their energy on reviewing and debugging. Writers who once drafted from a blank page now refine and edit AI-generated text. Analysts who once built models now verify outputs that AI produced in seconds. The skill is shifting from creation to oversight, and nobody fully knows yet what that means for human capability over the long term. What happens to a generation of writers who never learned to write from scratch? What happens to a generation of programmers who never learned to build from the ground up? We are making choices right now, as individuals, as companies, as societies, about how much we hand over to these systems. And many of those choices are being made not through deliberate policy, but through convenience, one small shortcut at a time. Some governments are piloting universal basic income programs designed to provide financial stability as employment patterns shift. Some companies are investing in retraining programs, helping workers develop skills that complement AI rather than compete with it. The European Union has introduced requirements that workers be informed when AI is being used to make decisions that affect their employment. But the honest answer is, policy is significantly behind reality. The disruption is already underway. The safety nets, in most parts of the world, are not yet built. And the people most affected are the ones with the least power to influence how this unfolds. Work has always changed, and people have always adapted. The question, this time, is not whether change is coming. It is whether the change is coming faster than our ability to respond to it. And right now, the honest answer is, we do not know. Here ending Danger 5, moving to last danger. Here comes Danger 6, which is more crucial and important. Everything we have covered so far has had something in common. A specific event, a specific harm, a specific group of people affected, a teenager, a company, an election, a job. This last danger is different, because it is not about a specific event. It is about a direction, a trajectory, and where that trajectory, if left unchecked, ultimately leads. For the entirety of human history, we have been the most intelligent things on this planet. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most resilient, but the most intelligent. And that intelligence has been the foundation of everything. Our ability to build, to govern, to communicate, to solve problems, to imagine futures, and work toward them. Every system on Earth, political, economic, social, scientific, was built by human minds, for human minds, operated by human minds. What happens when that changes? Geoffrey Hinton is a Nobel Prize winner, a Turing Award winner, one of the foundational figures of modern artificial intelligence, a man who spent his career building these systems, and who now spends his time warning the world about them. This is what he said: "Things more intelligent than you are going to manipulate you." Geoffrey Hinton, Nobel laureate. He went further. He warned that sufficiently advanced AI might find ways to escape human control, not through dramatic rebellion, but by writing its own code, modifying itself, quietly, incrementally, in ways too subtle for humans to detect, until it is too late to reverse. This is not a movie plot. This is a warning from the man who helped build the technology, and he is not alone. In June 2026, MIT published a landmark study. 272 AI experts from 37 countries were asked to assess the probability of catastrophic outcomes from AI over the next 5 years. These were not activists, not science fiction writers, not people with an agenda. These were AI researchers, policy advisors, technologists, governance specialists, people who build these systems for a living. And they were asked, honestly and anonymously, what they actually believed. 10%. 1 in 10. That is roughly the probability of rolling a 1 or a 2 on a standard 6-sided die. Most people would not board a plane if the chance of it crashing were 1 in 10. Most people would not send their children to a school if the chance of harm were 1 in 10. And yet, we are collectively accelerating the development of systems that the people who know them best assess carry that level of risk. The lead researcher on the MIT study said something that I think deserves to be heard clearly. It is incredibly worrisome that experts are seeing a 10% probability of catastrophic outcomes across so many areas. MIT Future Tech AI Risk Study, June 2026. Over the past year, 3 simultaneous revolutions in reasoning, agentic capabilities, and accessibility have rapidly accelerated. They could converge to create systems with the potential to undermine human controls. Eric Schmidt, former CEO, Google, the Council on Foreign Relations, one of the most respected international policy institutions in the world, published an assessment in April 2026. It concluded that the world is currently years away from consensus on how to manage this risk. No binding international agreements exist. Countries are racing to build more powerful AI, not slower AI. And the gap between what these systems can do and our ability to govern what they do is widening, not narrowing, widening. And here is what makes this moment unlike any other in history. Previous dangers, nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, pandemics, required physical materials, uranium, specific chemicals, a pathogen. Those things are hard to make, hard to move, hard to hide. Intelligence, artificial or otherwise, requires none of that. It requires only electricity and mathematics. And it can be copied infinitely, instantly, for free. Dario Amodei, the chief executive of Anthropic, said something in January 2026 that I keep returning to. He said, "We are considerably closer to real danger in 2026 than we were in 2023. That was not a warning about some distant future. That was a statement about right now, about this year, about the systems already built and already deployed. We are considerably closer to real danger in 2026 than we were in 2023. Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, January 2026. The question, the only question that matters, is what we do with that information. Here the Danger 6 ends and moving to closing discussion, which is more interesting. Let's move. Here's the fully developed outro section. We have spent the last 20 minutes looking at 6 specific dangers. Real ones, documented ones, ones that experts, including the people building these systems, have put their names behind. And I want to be honest with you about why. Not to frighten you, not to make you feel powerless, but because the alternative, vague reassurances and comfortable silence, has a cost. And that cost is paid by the people least able to afford it. Here is what I believe, and what the evidence, the same evidence we have been looking at together, actually supports. None of what we covered today is inevitable. Not one of those 6 scenarios is locked in. They are warnings, not verdicts. And there is a meaningful difference between the two. The 2026 International AI Safety Report, the document we have returned to throughout this film, was written by over 100 independent experts from more than 30 countries. It is the largest global collaboration on AI safety ever conducted. It exists because hundreds of serious people, across governments, universities, and companies, decided that understanding this risk was worth their time. That is not nothing. That is actually significant. The number of companies publishing serious AI safety frameworks doubled in 2025. Researchers are developing better tools for detecting AI-generated content. Regulators in Europe are moving faster than most people expected. Governments that were not talking to each other about AI 2 years ago are now in regular dialogue. The gap between capability and safety is real, but it is not fixed. It is a gap that human decisions, made right now, can narrow. The 2026 International AI Safety Report said something that I think is the most important sentence in the entire document. 4 words. AI does not happen to us. 2026 International AI Safety Report. AI does not happen to us. Choices made by people determine its future. 2026 International AI Safety Report. Choices made by people, not by algorithms, not by corporations, not by governments alone, by people, which includes you. You do not need to be a scientist to matter in this conversation. You do not need to write code or understand machine learning or work in technology. What you need is to understand what is actually at stake, which is what we have spent this film trying to do together. The decisions that will shape how AI develops are being made right now, in boardrooms, in parliaments, in regulatory bodies, in research labs, by people who are, at this moment, trying to figure out how much public pressure exists to do this carefully, versus how much pressure exists to do this quickly. Your awareness and what you do with it is part of that calculation. If this film helped you understand something you did not understand before, share it. Not because sharing a video changes the world overnight, but because the number of people who genuinely understand what is at stake directly affects what politicians prioritize, what companies feel accountable for, and what researchers are funded to work on. Inform people, in large enough numbers, change things. That has always been true. It is still true now. Artificial intelligence is not good or evil. It is a tool, the most powerful tool our species has ever built. And like every powerful tool in history, from fire to the printing press to the internet, what it becomes depends entirely on the choices we make about how to use it. We are at the beginning of that story. Not the middle, not the end. The beginning. Which means the most important chapters have not been written yet. Who writes them is still an open question. Let's make sure the answer includes all of us.